Hello and welcome. My name is Jessica Gem, and today's video is a little bit different. I am playing in the background a video of a stream that I did, my first art stream, which the VOD had no sound for. Very unfortunate, and I didn't have it recording to anywhere as a backup, so luckily for my other streams that were missing the audio, I did figure that out and save backup copies, so they are on YouTube. They're my Minecraft streams, but unfortunately, this art stream, the audio was lost forever. So I didn't want to completely lose my first art stream, so I'm doing a video here as kind of a makeup for it, a tribute to it. So I'm just going to be doing kind of a voiceover on this one. I'll be speeding up some parts just to get through it. This stream wasn't a ton of like anything major, but I just thought it would be fun to still have access to, so I'm just going to be talking over it. I have put gemstone here as a little overlay so that I am talking accurately, just so that it's not like really obnoxious to have her talking at the wrong time in the recording and then me talking here, so I've just hidden that with a little background. I need to make overlays for my streams anyway, so this is also kind of a little test to see how that would look. I think the color blends in too much, but good to see. So for starting off here, I just decided to do kind of a sketch. It was my first art stream, so I was just getting back into the swing of things, getting used to using my tablet again, because I don't actually draw on my pen tablets very often. I mostly use my iPad just because it's a little bit more convenient, a little bit more comfortable, but for streaming, obviously, it's way better to use an actual pen tablet connected to a computer, so this is me just kind of feeling it out again, and, you know, getting back into the swing of things. I did decide to just start sketching a face here, and then very quickly decided to make it into gemstone, because why not start with her, so I made it into gemstone using her little special nose, her eyes. I do fix up the face as I go along, so I'm gonna be kind of speeding past some parts. I'm going to be using Timebolt to speed up where I'm not talking here, just to kind of get through it. Add some music as well, just to make it a little bit more entertaining, but that's how it's going today. I did figure out what was wrong with the VODs not getting sound, and also I still do have backup recordings, and I do also fix the lack of music. Some of my streams, well, because they didn't record, they didn't have music either. And I thought that might have been an issue from Soundtrack, the reason that it wasn't recording. And it turns out it might not have been that, because I just didn't have something selected that I was supposed to. But either way, people seem to have problems with Soundtrack fairly often, and Streamlabs actually just added its own music source, Streamlabs Music, and that music is not only clear for Twitch and Twitch VODs, but also, because it's through Streamlabs, it is clear for YouTube as well, because Twitch Soundtrack rather, only is cleared for Twitch, so you can only use it for your streams, and it doesn't even record to the VODs. But Streamlabs Music not only records to the VODs, but also can be posted to YouTube or any other site that you choose to use, which is really cool, as long as you like link your account to it, so just so that they know that you're cleared to use it. I'm not totally sure if it's cleared for like Instagram and like TikTok and things like that, where you would just post like shorts or clips of it. So I do have to double check that, but if it is, then that's pretty cool. Gonna have some chill music going. That's you know, just some nice cozy playlists, and they can be the same across all platforms. So when I talk about a certain song in my stream, it'll translate across to, you know, how it's going in my in the YouTubes as well. Because currently I upload a different soundtrack that I kind of pieced together from sounds that I got off of Freesound, and I do credit in the description. So if you're interested in listening to any of these songs or using any of them for their own for your own projects, they're linked down in the description below. But they're all from Freesound, and it's just the same one looping. That's a feature that an app called Timebolt has, where it can remove silences, speed past them, and also add background music. So that is a feature that I quite like, because I like having music in my videos. It's just nice to have. But now the music should be unified across, as long as, you know, I make sure that it can be used for clips and things. I'm still going to have a recording without it just in case, just to prevent anything major from going wrong in the future. So I'm gonna keep a recording with it and a recording without, and I'll see which I end up doing. Because I do like the mix that I made for my streams, but also it's the same one every time, so it could get a little bit boring, so I might alter them every once in a while. But it depends on, you know, the process as I go along, so we'll see how that goes. So this stream was a full 2.5 hours long. I'm not going to be making this secondary recording that long because, you know, I've already done it, so I don't really remember everything that I said. I also interacted with chat quite a bit at the end, so there's not, you know, it's not as good for like revoicing over. There's not so much I can do for it. I'm doing my best, but I am probably gonna let quite a bit of it slip by, just, you know, for timing's sake and for entertainment's sake, and also for the sake of my voice, because it's already getting sore. I did some recording of other things earlier, so I really need to get used to using it again. But, you know, that's something that comes with practice, and I know that, so I'm going to allow it to come with practice as well. But yeah, I flipped it here to see how wonky it was and did a little bit of skew just to, you know, try and get the proportions and shape a little bit better. I was doing a fairly rough job. This was just to get warmed up, basically. There's just some warm-up sketches. And that was actually where I talked about how I mirror it. I like to check a flipped canvas just to make sure that my proportions are correct, because I tend to lean it really far one way. Not sure which way. You'd think I'd remember for leaning it the same way every time. Like, whenever I flip the canvas, I always have to change it a little bit. Basically just skew it in one direction because it's tilted the exact same amount across all of it, but I do flip the canvas to make sure that things aren't too wonky and too weird and stuff. Or I do most of the time. Sometimes I forget a little bit, but I try to always do it because when I'm looking at it, I'm used to it. So if I'm looking at something that's way off, but I've been staring at it the whole time, so it's just familiar to me now, I might not notice the errors, but if I flip it, then I can see what people might see if they come in for the first time. So if you just see a finished art piece and it's tilted way to the left or something, then you may notice that, but while you're doing it, as an artist, it can be hard to see sometimes, so I do like to flip the canvas and try and fix up those mistakes. It can also help with, like, the balance of the proportions as well, so if one arm is, like, way bigger, or, you know, or you're trying to do a perspective, like, piece, so one part's closer, one part's farther, if you do something like that, then it can show you if you've gotten the perspective right, because if the foreshortening looks good both ways, then you can be pretty confident that you've done a decent job of it. But if it looks really, really wonky when you flip your canvas, then you can tell something's off, and it can help you fix that a little bit as well. In the stream, I believe I also mentioned how she's got a little bit more, like, close to human proportions than she usually does. Like, it's more, I guess, less cartoony than I normally do, more close to, you know, how people's heads are proportioned to their shoulders and things like that. So I mentioned that it makes her look, like, a little bit more mature. And her hair is also flatter and not as, like, voluminous as it is when I draw her sometimes, so it also makes her look a bit more mature and older, and, like, it's definitely still stylized for sure, like, by a long shot, but a little bit closer to realistic proportions. And of course, I had to do a sketch of the Boar King. I decided to just try and see. I didn't look at any references for boars or anything, so I just did it off the top of my head. I just wanted to, you know, I wanted to give at least a glimpse into him. Because I did say that I might do a proper character design for him, for the Boar King. If you're unfamiliar, it's a Minecraft thing that I made up in my first stream, and it's going to be a running character that I have now. So I kind of wanted to do a little bit of an homage to that. Since this is my first art stream, I didn't want to do, like, a full-on character design for him, because I just didn't have, like, the brain capacity and the, you know, I didn't have any references or any ideas for him, pretty much, so I did just decide to sketch him out, just for fun, just a little quick, again, a warm-up sketch, just to get something down, so he exists now, you know? So, I did do that. Again, I didn't look at any reference, so this is what a boar looks like in my mind. I was mostly using, like, remembering Inosuke from Demon Slayer and, I guess Pumbaa from The Lion King as my mental references, as well as also just the boar head from Minecraft, so that was, I was kind of flying from mere memory and just those kind of mental references in my visual library that I have stored from the things that I've seen. So I decided just to do a little bit of a rough draft, kind of make him feel royal, feel a little regal, you know. He is, like, a humanoid boar. Like, it's not an animal sitting on the throne. It's a humanoid, anthropomorphic boar slash lycanthrope slash cursed creature. But he is bipedal. He is, you know, mannered, wears clothes, etc. So the Boar King, you know, got to represent him properly. Gotta respect him. But yeah, I basically did just kind of a rough outfit, rough head. Just a rough little guy. I mean, a rough little majesty. All due respect to the Boar King. And Skymirum joined my chat, so that was lovely to have them back because they're lots of fun to talk to. I do enjoy having them around on my streams, so I made sure to greet them and just let them know what I was working on. And got to have his crown, of course, because royalty. Gotta bling him up a little bit. It is supposed to be kind of you know, a smaller society, nothing like major, like he's not the ruler of a large kingdom or anything, but he's gotta have some, you know, show to him. I just think that's fun. I really do like how the sketch came out. I think he looks like quite cute. I'm very satisfied with it. Because I do want him to be like a benevolent ruler. Like he's not oppressive or anything. He gets down in the dirt with everyone else and takes good care of his citizens and protects them, and you know, he's very of the people. I don't think he's very disconnected to any of them. Just basically the leader, so good to have him. I want him to look, you know, approachable and friendly despite being a boar, which are not the most approachable animals. I thought it would be fun to kind of have a contrast to that. And now we start work on somewhat of the point of today's stream. What I decided to go for was to actually work on a Minecraft-inspired piece. I decided to make something of gemstone, so my channel avatar, because I thought that would be fun to try and not only translate her into Minecraft, but also just make a fun piece. So I started to work on kind of a shape, but then didn't end up liking the angle, I believe. So I think I get rid of this. Or at least change it up a little bit. But I tried to go with kind of a Minecraft character energy, but as you'll see as I go along, you know, they're a bit more bendy than Minecraft characters because to be able to pose it, you kind of have to use some creative liberties. Oof. But yeah, so I just kind of made a like a Lego character, how they make those move, and in the Minecraft animations as well, how they're a little bit bendier. So I do kind of use that liberty on the limbs and on the body and everything to give it an actual form to be able to use. I did a Minecraft illustration, I think 2 years ago Christmas, where I did a similar thing. So the characters, they had like rounded edges and things like that, but it was still a block-ish character. So that was interesting to kind of do again, because that's the only time I did it. But it was a little bit challenging, but also quite fun. So it was interesting to to kind of do again. So my concept for this was kind of to have gemstone adventuring. So I started with, you know, kind of an exploratory pose here, got a nice torch to light up the area. My first and favorite idea was related to having her explore a cave or something, because I thought it could be really cool with all the lush caves, how all the plants look and how the glow berries look. So I thought it might be like neat to experiment with that, use a bunch of different nice lighting sources, and just try to make a really like glowy and kind of ethereal piece. So that's a thought that I had, and we'll see as it goes on how I develop that. Yeah, I decided to also add an axe here because another idea is just, you know, exploring through the forests. I really like chopping trees in Minecraft. I don't know why, it's just kind of an obsessive thing that I do sometimes. So, gathering wood, I had an axe in my other piece that I did. But yeah, just chopping down trees, I don't know why, it's just really cathartic, I guess. I hate the big ones though, they just ruin everything. They're such a pain to get all the branches and things, so, you know, certain types of tree chopping are very enjoyable. So for her outfit, I obviously decided to do fantasy because I'm insufferable and a vest and poofy shirt are the peak of fashion in my mind, apparently. But for this, I also talked about how I wanted to make her into a Minecraft skin. Like, I want to make a Minecraft skin of gemstone because I just think that it would be fun, and since I do Minecraft streams, it would be just cool to have both for. So I was talking about how the crystals on her shoulders and certain things won't work so well as a Minecraft skin because obviously there's only so much you can do. It's mostly just a block for the arms and a block for the head, so there's not so much variation that you can do. There's all sorts that you can do with patterns and anything flat, but as far as anything that sticks up, pretty much not an option. So I was talking a little bit about concepts, how, you know, I have this thing where maybe gemstone can, I don't know, retract her gems, or they could just be flat on her shoulders in the Minecraft skin because she can also theoretically move them. I'm not really sure to what extent, but I've mentioned before, and I'll probably mention again, that I want them to like spike up when she's mad and kind of droop when she's sad. Like, not the crystals themselves, they're hard crystals, but like the general arrangement of them. So yeah, it would also be hard to do her hair because, you know, it's spiky and kind of all over the place, but it would just be flat. I still do want to do a skin for her though, and it would probably be with like the big girly Minecraft eyes. Like, you know how there's kind of the flat ones that are across, and then there's the big ones, and then the tiny little mouth. I figure gemstone would probably have the big eyes, just for gorgeous sake and for trying to get the colors in them. Since she has golden eyes, it could be a bit harder to see with the white pupils especially, so maybe the bigger eyes to try and get the idea across a little bit more. The idea. Anyway. But yeah, I think I might do, if I can figure out how to do it, I think I might actually do a Minecraft skin stream where I make this skin rather. Oof. I might do a Minecraft skin making art stream if I can get it so that the any ads and stuff on the edges of the web browser that I use are kind of hidden, because, you know, I don't want to like give people free advertising or whatever on my my stream here. So, and they did ask what my pronouns are, and they are she, her, female. Yeah, and Gemstone is also female, so no confusion there. I tried to keep it a bit simpler. But yeah, here I start doing some thumbnail sketches for kind of concepts for what I want the piece to be as a whole, because this is going to be like an actual art piece, and also I'm planning on using it as an actual thumbnail for my Minecraft streams. It depends how it comes out, like if it's too busy then I might not be able to, but that was kind of the original purpose of it. So I do some thumbnail sketches to get a general layout, and this first one, like I said, I really like the Lush Caves idea, and in Minecraft the Lush Caves have these like pink flowers that have all the little particle effects. So I was thinking of doing something with that, where I would have all the little particles and all the glow berries and everything like shining in kind of just a general like really bioluminescent atmosphere. I thought that could be really fun to try. So that was my first kind of concept. Obviously the layout of it right now, horrible. This composition, just, there's no composition to it, but it was just mainly to get that idea down. I did think though that I wanted to limit the color palette a little bit more, because the pink, green, and then gemstones blue and yellow might not work the best, so I will do some actual color testing later, but that's kind of an idea that I thought maybe, as much as I would like to have the flowers with all their fun particles, doesn't make the most sense. So I move on to the next idea, which is kind of this outcropping, I believe over a lake for this one. Again, it's it's a little bit hard to say it retroactively because I don't remember exactly what I was thinking at the time that I was doing it, but just doing my best. So maybe I'll pause for a second and explain them after they happen. I did think that maybe a lantern would be fun instead of a torch, because the lanterns in Minecraft, and I guess the torches as well, but the lanterns in Minecraft, you can have these like the yellow ones, the classic yellow, but then also the bright blue like soul lanterns. And I realize now as I'm saying it, you can also have soul torches now, which, you know, is also an option, but I'm not really sure if I, like, for the final piece, I've even done a more detailed sketch of the one that I ended up going with. I've already done, spoiler alert, this is after my second art stream that I'm recording this. So I have already done a refined sketch of the one that I went with, but I'm still kind of on the fence between a lantern and torches because I really like fire. I just think it's so cool, so I might go with fire after all, but still on the fence. I think I drew a lantern in my final piece, but I also wanted to add squids. So this one is the kind of cave lake idea. So glowy squids, because I love them. They're such a beautiful color. They're pretty much very similar to my favorite color, and they're just glowy and underground. I am kind of sad though, because most of the time when I see a a glow squid, it ends in me with a glow ink sac, not of my own violence, but of their own violence to themselves. Glow squids really don't like to stay alive, which mood, but it's so unfortunate. And especially with the shader pack that I have for the Minecraft mod that I'm playing in, they're so pretty. Them and Enderman, just gorgeous. So I wanted to have, if I had water in my piece, I wanted to have glowy squids, because the bioluminescence, the beautiful color, it would just be so lovely. So that's that idea there. I also thought for this one, what if I was kind of, you know, rappelling down some glow vines? Like, what if I'm climbing down them, using them as rope and as a way to kind of explore this area? So I kind of roughly sketched out that idea as well. I believe this one's also in a cave. I really liked the idea of the lush caves. So I did kind of stick with that track for the majority of this. And I do, spoiler alert, end up going with it after all, because it was just such a cool concept to me. Because, you know, the blues of caves, the greens of the lush caves would kind of go well with gemstones, kind of aquamarine and gold, which, you know, blue and yellow basically, which make green. So I thought it would be a really cool kind of tri-color palette. I don't remember what it's called, but when the three colors are kind of right next to each other, it's a specific type of color palette, and it's really, really nice. So I decided to try and stick with that idea as I was going. So it's kind of the yellow, the green, and the blue. Which is also why I decided to remove the pink as well, because it's kind of off to the side of that color palette, and it just doesn't line up very well. It would be very jarring to just have pink flowers and then everything else be tied into these three colors, so you have to make sacrifices sometimes for the aesthetics. Yeah, that was my second cave lake idea, kind of hanging off the glow vines. And then I start work on my fourth thumbnail design. I don't know if I do another cave lake one for this one. Looking back, I'm not actually sure what that one is supposed to be. I don't know. It's obviously gemstone doing something, but I'm not sure what that round thing's supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to be a computer mouse, because, I mean, I think I would have drawn something that looks like it. It's just a round... I don't know. I genuinely have no idea what that's supposed to be. I can't remember. That's kind of funny. So for this next one, I decided to try her like sitting on a ledge overlooking an area. And this one was with a bird, apparently. It's holding a little bird looking over an area. Looks like a cloudy day, so this one was an actually above ground idea. Because I do love me some wings and flight aesthetics, so. I still can't figure out what that other one was supposed to be. Oh well. Maybe she was just petting a potato. So for this one, I started to narrow down closer to the ideas that I was actually most appealed by. Wait, what? Most attracted to through the last one. So sticking with that underwater, not underwater. I made that same mistake when I was recording the first one with that underground lake. The underground pond sort of feeling for it, and also the glowberry vines, of course, because I just really wanted that gentle glow in there, so started bringing together the final elements. I also wanted to make sure that I hid an Enderman in there because I love Ender friends. I don't know why, just ever since I played Minecraft as a wee little child, I like them. I think they're neat. I'm so sad that they get mad at you for looking at them because I want to look at them all the time. They're just cool. I even have a little Enderman plushie that I keep on my desk. His name is Fred. Fred the Enderman. And, yeah, so I wanted to hide one somewhere in the piece because I thought that would be entertaining. So maybe you won't see it when it's just a little thumbnail, but as an art piece you'll see it. Or maybe you'll only kind of be able to see it if you look closer. Like not at a first glance, but maybe at a third or fourth. Like if you look at it for more than a few seconds you see him. But it still takes a little second. And Skymirum was actually drawing gemstone as I was going along, so I never got to see it, but I'm sure it turned out adorably or cool or beautifully. But yeah, we were talking about, you know, the crystals on my shoulders, how they're a mess and hard to do, and yeah, just kind of just kind of hanging out, having a good time, drawing together, talking about my thought process as I was going along, so it was quite enjoyable. I do enjoy streaming, so I'm really glad to be back. Even though the technical difficulties can be frustrating as heck, it's still, like, not enough to make me stop streaming. I still enjoy it enough to keep going through them, because unlike when my computer literally would not function, these are just difficulties that I can kind of sort out outside of stream. They're just little blips here and there, and I can handle that. But it's really fun. I enjoy content creation as I'm learning to go along, so really glad. It's fun to do. I probably should have saved my talking for when something visual was actually going on. But here, looks like I decide to do the color test that I mentioned earlier. So I start with, you know, the blue-gray of a cave, because that's a good base for a cave drawing. Or I guess not a cave drawing, but a drawing that takes place in a cave. I can! I cannot believe I didn't realize that earlier. I was looking at the recording, seeing the like black bars on the side. I was like, why is that? I know technology. There we go. Got that situated a little bit nicer now. I thought I had fixed that earlier, but I guess not. But should be good to go now. So here is where I decided to try out a framing method. My first thought was using like a D20, since that is, you know, the mod that I'm playing in with primarily is Dungeons and Dragons, or Dungeons and Crafting, Dungeons and Dragons Minecraft mod. So I wanted to try maybe like a D20, but I end up not going with this. It didn't quite fit the composition I was looking for because it was too narrow and also too tall. So a little bit too centralized for kind of this landscape proportion canvas that I was working with. Because not only did I not want to do a square piece because I do square pieces too much because Instagram rot. Instagram brain rot where it's gotta fit in the square. But also this is, like I mentioned, for a thumbnail, so I needed to be the proper dimensions for that. And this is my grand idea for framing. I ended up doing a gem. I don't know why I decided to make my logo literally just a basic gem shape that literally everybody draws when drawing a gem, but I did. And it turns out it works really good for composition. So I kind of ended up keeping that. Not even kind of. I ended up keeping that exactly, and it turned out really good. I'm actually really happy with how it looks as a composition piece. It ended up working really well for the areas that I kind of separated the piece into. But yeah, working with this color-based thumbnail ended up helping a lot for how I wanted the piece to turn out as a whole, because I was struggling a little bit in my earlier sketches. The composition wasn't coming together. I wasn't like getting the vision that I wanted. But doing it this way helped a ton, so I'm really happy that I decided to try it, and I'm very satisfied with how it turned out. It also gives me a better idea of how the colors will look together, so it kind of told me, you know, what I was gonna end up with a lot more than just a sketch would. So yeah, I continue adding kind of the elements I wanted, some texture for the stones and for the rocks, some leaves, and moss, because I wanted to remember to use like mossy cobble, which I forgot until just now. And I'm definitely not writing that down. because I kind of forgot about it. So it turns out this was helpful. In a roundabout sort of way. But yeah, I started adding in some colors and I thought, what if waterfalls? What if waterfalls? Because there's so many like waterfalls in the Minecraft caves. So why not use that as a really cool element that not only brings the blue kind of around the rest of the piece, because if it's just, you know, in the main lake area, then it kind of gets stuck at the bottom there. So what if I use waterfalls to kind of add more framing, add more colors, and bring it all together a little bit further? And also just cool visual elements, so it's just fun to have. That can also, with waterfalls, you can also get like mist, which if you have glowy things and you have mist, you have just such an aesthetic, like atmospheric effects possibilities. That's not the right way to say that sentence, but I'm going with it. It just gives you really cool options for lighting. So it's just really fun to have that possibility, and I really ended up liking that idea as well. Just sprinkling in a couple waterfalls here and there to add some more visual interest, more texture, more life to the piece as well. I also am using kind of background and foreground to make this shape. So up in the top left, you've got the lighter gray, and that will be kind of a further back piece, but then this darker piece is in the foreground. And while they aren't connected physically or spatially, they still help to make that gemstone shape, which is just something that I was super stoked about. I was so proud of myself for thinking of it. It's like those optical illusions where they make like a metal sculpture and it just looks like a giant pile of trash unless you look at it from the right angle, and then it's like this beautiful piece of art. It's kind of that in theory, where it's the perspective of it kind of brings it together to make it make sense. I also wanted to have it in the background there kind of fade into like a light fogginess, because the foreground will be dark and then the background, to be separated from it, has to be light. And that kind of plays into as well the fact of the waterfalls leaving mist, but also the way that in Minecraft, if it gets out of your view distance, there's like this fog that kind of takes over. It just came together so well with all those different kind of elements that can be used to mimic that. So not only does it make sense, you know, in real life with like the waterfall and the light bouncing around and stuff, but it also makes sense in Minecraft because it just fades away once you reach a certain distance. So I just thought that was a really cool way of kind of tying that all together, and also using that as composition and a separation of the foreground and the background. And kind of highlighting her as well, because she's going to be centered in this space, in the, you know, on the third line, where it's, you know, it's a composition element. You have the thirds that you put it on. You don't put it on the center unless it's a very specific composition you're going for. You put your visual interests on the thirds. So on the first third, that vertical third there, I have the waterfall, and then on the second third, it's the line between them. Anyway, on the second third line, that doesn't make any sense. On the second third line, I have gemstone. So it kind of ties it together, not making her too front and center, so it doesn't look too sterile, too planned out. But it looks more aesthetic and it flows more naturally. So I decided to put her over there. And it's also as if she's kind of cresting this clifftop area into this oasis underground. So she's been exploring, she's been probably getting lost because I end up getting lost a lot. She's been searching for hours, and then she crests this cliff top and sees this bastion, this oasis of beauty and nature and hope. I'm being ridiculous, but I'm a little hungry and hyper, so you know, there's less thought into it originally than that. But that's what I'm thinking of now. That's what I'm connecting in my mind. That's maybe why I made some of those decisions, or just a fun story thing that I'm spitting out now to fill time. Who knows? Yeah, I was also asked here how long I've been an artist for. Serious artist? Just around 3 years. I got my first and main pen tablet in 2018, but I only started using it seriously and trying to actively improve in 2019. I started using it regularly, and late 2019/2020 I started actively improving myself, learning from other artists, tips, tricks, practice, stuff like that. So just about 3 years, 4 years. I mean, 4 years I've been doing digital art, but 3 years I've been an artist doing it seriously. I've drawn on notebooks and paper, and I've always been creatively inclined. Like, as a kid I did draw in my school books and stuff, but very little compared to the amount of time and energy that I put into it now. And for the last 3 years, I guess. So yeah, I mean, relatively not long. Now that I kind of realize, like, when some people say they've been drawing since childhood, they've been like drawing every day or practicing or learning, like actively at it. So I guess I really haven't been drawing for that long, so wow, look at me go. Oh wait, it's 2023. It's early 2023, so still just like 3-4 years. And yes, I hid the Enderman behind the waterfall because I kind of forgot. Men don't like water, so maybe he's hiding like in the distance behind it. But I do have to be careful when I'm placing him in the final piece to make sure that he's not like too close, because even rain like bothers Endermen and hurts them, so I definitely don't want him to be even too close to the mist and stuff, because if he's getting splashback then he's gonna, you know, zip out of there. So I've got to make sure to really think about where I put him in the final piece. And I did navy at first because, as you can tell, that's kind of the go-to for gemstone, is kind of the navy, the grayer, kind of bluish color that I have here, just because it kind of fits with the color palette, doesn't clash too much, but also doesn't draw too much attention. But then, of course, fantasy garb, have to make it like brown, earth tones, because that'll also tie in those warmer colors to this side of the piece. As you can see, the greens are kind of centered on the left, and the blues of the cave are centered on the right. So to bring some of that warmth, some of the more warm tones over, I decided to use some browns, some, you know, classic fantasy colors, do whatever I was doing on the color wheel there for whatever reason. But then tested out the navy again, and didn't like that, I guess. But yeah, I just did some color tests to try and see how I could tie the piece together. And again, just added the little lantern there. Still not totally sure. Even as I think about it now, I really don't know if I want it to be a lantern or a torch, because I do really like torches. I really like fire. But also, a lantern would be more practical, so... It depends. It depends. Depends what I'm feeling, I guess, next art stream when I'm rendering this. Well, I guess for anyone watching VOD, it would be in 2 art streams, because the next one is actually refining this sketch and turning it into something a little bit more usable. But for me, I've already done that. That VOD will be coming out next week from this one, and it is an actual VOD. it recorded properly, kind of. So I'll be doing that next week for you guys, and then the week after that, or the next stream for me, should be rendering that out. Unless I don't feel good or have to do something else that day, but as far as the plan goes right now, I'm excited to start working on this piece again, so continuing on it. Which reminds me, I do need to do some rendering tests off stream to kind of decide how I want to go about this. I don't do environment pieces very often, so I don't really know how I want to render it. Probably not extremely blended or painted, because that's not my style. Doesn't fit with Gemstone, doesn't fit with Minecraft, doesn't fit with how I like to do things, so. But I'm not sure if it'll have like lines particularly, or how much texture there will be, or if it's, you know, there's a few different possibilities, so I do need to try some practice attempts to see how I want to go about this. Because I really like how the sketch turned out, and I don't want to mess it up. I'm very proud of it, and hopefully you'll like it as well. I really, really do like how it turned out, so you'll get to see that later, if you haven't already seen it, I guess. But yeah, that is something that I need to remember to do before the next stream. I may record it just to see, but also, since I'm going to be experimenting, it might be kind of nothing a lot of the time if I'm just looking at references, so. Again, not really sure what I'm going to do with that, but we'll see. All will be revealed in time as I actually do or do not do things. But yeah, I did add in that little squid there. I want that little squid. I want at least one glow squid for sure, because they're neat. And also, one of the things that I talked about a bunch here was axolotls, Minecraft axolotls. And yes, I do have a crystal hand. But yeah, I was looking them up because I was thinking, oh, if I could do like a golden one, even though there aren't any, or something like that. But then I looked them up, and there actually is yellow axolotls in Minecraft, and brown ones, and green ones. So all of those colors could work pretty well in tying this piece together. So if I wanted to do multiple axolotls, I could. So that's just something that I kept in mind, that I talked about on the stream, because they're just so cute. They're just cute little friends. They're in caves, so they could add more life to the piece. I just thought it would be neat. So what I'm working on here is I'm just using some overlay layers and different layer styles. I'll actually see which one comes up. But I'm just using some layer styles to try and get a better idea of how the final piece will turn out. So I'm just starting with a darker, kind of cooler blue to just get the shadow areas in, because I'm going to be having some bright orange yellowy highlights. So I start by just kind of mapping out where the base shadows will be, just to get an idea of how the colors will all come together. This will be a very helpful key to use when I'm working on rendering the final piece. I mentioned here that I could use that, on the far right, that glow vine there, I could use that for rim lighting. So as you can see, I kind of did a little bit on the edge of where gemstone is, just a little bit of rim lighting to give some additional outline, some additional contrast for her. So in the final piece, that would give a bit more of where kind of her form is if that part's really dark. So that extra vine there could provide some cool little room lighting, just because it might be fun. I also thought maybe I could just do blue room lighting from further down back into whatever cave she came from, just to kind of contrast with all the yellow glow. So there's a few things that I could try. I'll keep those in mind as I'm rendering it and adding the lighting and details to that type of thing. I am doing these colors on separate layers, by the way, so I'm not just completely demolishing this thumbnail sketch that I did. I do change these layer styles fairly soon. But I also will have the underglow from the squids and everything else bioluminescencing from that lake there. I'm planning on having it pretty glowy. So yeah, I go ahead and turn that deep purpley blue to a multiply and lower the opacity a little bit. And then the lighting layer that I've done, I turn to... perhaps we'll see soon. I think I test out a few different types for this actually. Oh! I just realized it doesn't actually show my menu. Huh. Interesting. I guess it counts that as a separate window. Anyway, I turned that to Edition. And then tweak the color a little bit to try and make it a little bit warmer. Because with all the cool colors underneath, it was getting a little bit washed out. I think I changed the layer style again, actually. So it looks like that layer ends up on Color Dodge. And this part of the stream kind of reflects the end of the stream, as you'll see in a bit, but Skymirum, I will get the pronunciation down eventually. Skymirum mentioned that they were currently working on a Link cosplay, so I do something with that later, just a little heads up. If you haven't, seen the thumbnail already. I didn't perfectly like how the colors were looking. Things were a little bit too cool for my taste, because I do like the warmer glows, and especially like the aquamarine more than just a flat blue. So I did do a N, an orangey, mostly yellow overlay layer to just kind of warm the piece up, bring a little bit more vibrancy to it as well. And then I do go back over some parts of the blue just to bring it not so much to the green side. Because it is supposed to be an aquamarine, but I still want stronger blue than green. But there's definitely that green tint to it. So I just go ahead over the lake and the waterfalls to bring that back a little bit. I noticed that there wasn't quite enough of the kind of aquamarine tint in it, so I did try a few different layer styles on just a new group type. I just merged all of them and did a overall kind of pass on it just to see what I could kind of do with the colors to make it look like. Like what I was hoping for. Just a few more adjustments to see how it would turn out. So I went over with the yellow to make it warmer. And then back over it with a blue just on the kind of cooler cave areas. And then the whole thing. This was mainly just a play around stage just to see the different kind of feelings and emotions that I could get from each different area being different tones, whether it's cool or warmer. Then I tried some green. Basically just playing around, seeing what I could come up with as I was working on my my little thumbnail here. And there was a dot. I immediately got rid of the dot. Kind of. There we go. Sometimes I forget if I'm on an eraser on the pen. And then I went ahead and eventually put that to the side for a minute. I believe that's just a little reminder to myself that that gem exists and needs to be there. I remembered that I had 5 on one and 1 thumbnail on the other, so I put them together and merged those layers just to keep my file a bit neater, to keep things a little bit more organized. Because I like to make sure things are nice and put together. I like to have a lot of layers just so that I can keep things separate, but I also like to group them up, so organization in my art pieces is present, or is attempted to be at least. I also do realize for any long stretches that I'm not talking, since I'm just going to be speeding up the in-betweens instead of cutting them out, gemstone will be bouncing everywhere. Because I have it on this gentle sway right now, but I'm going to be flying all over the place when I speed up the segments where I'm not talking. It'll be really funny, hopefully. Since I had completed my main goal of sketching a thumbnail that I was happy with, I kind of started just doodling around a little bit. I thought of an idea that would be kind of neat to do, just since Skymiram was very engaged and told me about their Link cosplay that they're working on, I decided to kind of run with that a little bit, but in a bit of a unique way. But first, I forgot I doodled this weird sitting Enderman. It didn't turn out good. It looks silly. And I don't think I even finish it. I leave it like half done. I was like, nah, this isn't even worth finishing. Yeah, I just skipped past that. That's... It was nothing. It ended up being nothing. It lives there now. So I decided to start again with a different type of doodle. So I decided to soften out the square as I had been doing with any Minecrafty things in kind of a different cartoon style. So I softened out the edges of that and made it a little bit nicer than the weird brick that I had done before. And started adding, you know, some features. Throughout a lot of this doodle, I was basically just talking to chat, kind of discussing, you know, basic art things, just spewing whatever thoughts were coming into my head, which is apparently not much right now. So I was just basically having a lovely conversation, chatting. Not much else to say about the drawing process for the moment. I'll just kind of continue letting it speak for itself. But yeah, I mean, it was mostly just a really chill, lovely conversation. I believe some reminiscing about cons and cosplaying somewhere in there. That might have been a different one. Actually, I think that comes in a bit. But yeah, basically just for this next little bit, I'll just let the drawing play. I may skip a couple times just to speed up the process a little bit. It is a 2.5-hour recording. I am an hour and 45 minutes in, and I'm starting to get hungry and tired, so I'll try and get through this a little bit. I was basically just having a lovely conversation. Now there's where I realized that I was being a little too precious with the lines, so I needed to just kind of do bigger, sketchy strokes, hurry it up a little bit. I was kind of dawdling around and focusing way too much on lines, as I tend to do, so I realized I needed to speed it up a bit. Needed to get this done. Because, you know, I am nearing the end of the stream time now, and I'm getting hungry and tired, and I was in the same boat then, so I realized that I should actually make some progress, do some bigger lines, be a little bit less precious. So that is something that I have been working on for a long time, just trying to get better at that, get faster, less precious, more lines down on the page as it goes. Now that I had kind of the base that I needed, the body, the pose, I started adding some of the details. And if you are familiar with the character, and also I may or may not have spoiled it earlier, but I started doing a little bit of a mashup for this last minute doodle. As you can see, I did kind of make progress with that trying to be a lot looser idea that I had. I was doing a lot more flowy lines, a lot quicker, just getting shapes down and then changing them as needed without being too precious with the lines. I then of course added one of the most iconic features to this particular character is long pointy hat. And yes, it is Link Enderman. Enderman Link, just cosplay, why not? I decided those two were kind of things that were related in this, or both kind of in this episode and in the stream. And I just decided to combine them. I wanted to draw an Enderman, and I thought, why not do a little like kind of fan art of a Link cosplay at the same time. I did just search up Link on Google, and this is kind of my favorite version that I've seen. I haven't played any of the Legend of Zelda games or really interacted or know much about the property at all, but I do like the look of this one in particular because of the more muted colors, the more kind of realistic fantasy kind of energy to it. Realistic and fantasy aren't really the same, but it's got more of that grit to it, that edge, that kind of medieval energy to it. So this is like my favorite version of Link that I've seen so far. So I decided to kind of do just a fun little mashup, because doodling and fun, because why not? I did also decide to do just a light color pass. I don't go too detailed with it, but I do like I mentioned, I do like how the muted color palette looks together, and I thought that the green and the yellow would look really cool with the purple of the Enderman. So I decided to just do, you know, a loose color pass just to add a little pop to it, because I really liked how the sketch turned out. I thought he was super cute. So I thought it would be just, you know, a fun little addition to it to color it, because coloring sketches is really fun. When you do it kind of rough and messy, you can get some cool effects with it, so I did decide to go with that. As I do for most of my art, I did start with a base color of all one color, just to make it simpler so that I'm not worrying about color picking and switching colors if I overpaint something, things like that. It just keeps it a little bit simpler. So I do it all over in one base color. For the coloring for this, and typically when I color sketches, I just use the exact same layer that I started. I don't really bother with, you know, layers on top of it, clipping masks, any of that. I'll just lock the transparency of the layer and color directly on it, because that keeps me a lot looser. You know, it's just a colored sketch, so it shouldn't be perfect. It shouldn't have, you know, all the different areas shouldn't completely not overlap each other or anything like that. It's supposed to be a bit rough around the edges. That's what makes it appealing as a colored sketch, so I just use the exact same layer and do everything there to keep it a lot simpler for myself. During this coloring process, basically what we were talking about was just cons and kind of what to expect and my experiences with them. I've gone to 2 cons so far, but I'm not really gonna get too far into that now. But basically just told them a bit about my experience and the fun that I had at them. I may go into it in future if I decide to do anything con related again, any cosplays or anything like that. I would probably talk about my experience in a video like that or in a stream like that, but I won't repeat it again here just for time's sake. But it was really fun to chat about because it's been a while and I want to go to a con again so badly, but there aren't really any in my area, so, you know, maybe one day. Definitely one day. We did also talk a little bit about what it might be like for me to try and cosplay Gemstone. With the big crystals on her shoulders, the crystals on her ears, it would be really hard to kind of work out how to do those, especially to make them, you know, wearable, since I wouldn't want them to fall off. Maybe if I attach them to whatever clothes I'm wearing, and if I get like some fake elf ears to attach the crystals to, but it would be very hard to cosplay Gemstone because I decided to make her blue. But we were just kind of also thinking about how if the crystals were made out of like that window cling stuff that makes all the rainbows on the ground, or anything shiny or crystally, like to make it look like them, it might leave some really cool patterns around me. But it definitely would be a really big challenge to cosplay her. I did decide to do a little bit of basic like shading and lighting on this. Not too much, but keeping it rough, just a little bit to add some pizzazz to it. Adding things like highlights to the metal and to the hair is just such a nice pop at the end. It just adds so much life to it. I really like doing bits of it. Even if I'm trying to do just a flat color of something, it's really hard, and I end up more often than not for sure adding at least some little bits of flair. Also, apologies if you can hear a noise in the background. Someone is mowing the lawn outside, so yeah, there's not really anything I can do about that. Other than, I guess, putting the recording off till later, but secret time, I am doing this the next day. I had to head out sometime not too long ago, so if the quality changed or anything, you might know when, but I did have to stop, and today I have this time chunk, so I'm doing it now, so apologies. So that's basically it for the shading. I kept it rough, kept it loose, kept some brush strokes visible just to add that texture, that like energy to it. I'm quite happy with how it turns out. I think it's really cute. I do add a couple more highlights here just for fun, and I don't add the ones in the eyes because that ended up looking weird. I'm playing with them here, but it looks too much kind of like weird pupils, I think. Or maybe I did end up keeping them. Either way, I know that I fixed them up to a way that I'm satisfied with, because I added a little bit of glow. Because in the shaders that I'm using, the Enderman eyes glow and they look so cool, so I had to try it out. So I do a little bit of fiddling with it. I make the gradient a little bit more subtle so that it's not just, you know, outlines. It looks like paint or something. Just to give them a little extra touch there. And it's Enderlink. So I did just, you know, sign it a little bit. Just because I thought it turned out really nice. I should probably post it on Instagram, actually. I'm pretty happy with it, so might as well. And this is where I start finishing off the stream. I basically just sum up what we went over, the thumbnail designs, and what I hope to do in the next one, which I did end up doing. I ended up sketching out the thumbnail a lot more detailed and a lot more polished of a sketch, a more refined version. So I did end up doing that, so if you're interested in seeing that, then check out my next art VOD. Join me on Twitch to see these streams live, and I hope that you've enjoyed.